Joining me on this week's episode is Amelia Gangitano. In this episode, we share our interests of living a holistic life and how we protect our families from environmental toxins. Amelia also homeschools her children. We talk about her reasons behind her decisions and how your birth story can impact your children's lives as they grow into young adults. That's enough from me, guys. Let's jump straight in. Welcome to the Honesty Policy Hour. I'm your host, Stephanie Marie, and it's time to put everything on the table on this beautiful journey of healing all areas of our lives, one deep conversation at a time. And joining me in the blue chair is Amelia.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, or aka Meals, aka Dr. Amelia. Dr. Meals? It's a little inside joke. Amelia is like the queen of home remedies when it comes to looking after kids and everything like that. Would you agree?
Yes, I definitely try to be. And it's definitely, something I've delved into, probably over the last 6 or 8 years, especially over the last 6 years since I had my daughter, because she's, just over 6 now, so...
Oh my God, you have a 6-year-old?
I know. It's, my youngest just turned 2 as well this week, so it's just, I've got 3 little ones. I've got a 6, a 4 and a 2. So really going, really going into that natural remedy, the holistic living, looking at all the eastern sides of medicine and health, and how we can complement, I guess, what we're already doing. That's something that I'm being really passionate about, especially since I fell pregnant with my daughter, and just overall to eliminate as many toxins and chemicals as we can.
Of course.
Because there are, as you know, there are so many toxins and chemicals, environmental toxins,
oh my goodness,
in our food.
But being pregnant is such a catalyst for that. I feel that, like, when I wasn't pregnant, it was still very conscious for me.
Yes, you were, yeah.
But I feel like when I was pregnant, I had no excuses to do anything anymore. I'm like, it's not just about me anymore. It's also about my son.
Yeah.
And I want to, look after him as best as I can and protect their little bodies. And yeah, that was a big one for me. So I can imagine having 3. A lot now.
For me in pregnancy, definitely it was like, for me personally, like I wouldn't even touch a Panadol or anything like that. I was very like conscious of what I was putting into my body throughout all my pregnancies to ensure that, we're feeding us, which in turn is feeding them through our placenta.
Yeah.
And they need that optimal nourishment to thrive in the developmental stages of, the fetus in the embryo.
Of course.
But not only that, in turn, what you do, yes, through preconception as well, but what you do in pregnancy and how you are in pregnancy, can dictate, how they are in the first couple of years of life and their immune system and, their gut health as well and how good or how poor it can be. And, once again, with all of the chemicals that our food gets sprayed in, even organic food, they still get sprayed.
Of course.
So just really minimising all those toxins to, ensure that our babies do have the best start in life is something that I'm so, so, so passionate about. And allowing us to do what we need to do for them to thrive.
It's beautiful. And it's just such a learning curve as well. It's just, it's all trial and error. I remember when Atlas was 4 months old and he got really bad eczema. I remember messaging you straight away and I was just like, what do I do?
The death that you feel inside the body when something's happening to your own child. Yeah.
It's just like, not that I know what it feels like to have a sick child, but like, it made me think of the severity of that. Like, if you had a really sick child, like it was only eczema. Like and I still was incredibly fearful, and it put me in that zone. I was like, oh my God, my heart went out to parents that have really sick children, because it's like my fear and that sickness that I had inside my gut was incredible.
It really does trigger you when your child falls unwell or something happens, like, eczema, rash, or
even a cold,
whatever it might be, their first fever even.
Oh my God.
I even remember, like, with like say Alira and Manaya, but then when my little one got his first fever, I remember you go into almost like your initial thing is not a panic, but it's like, oh, what can I do to fix? That fixing mentality, because that's what we've grown up with. The fixing side of things and that control side is definitely the mask.
That's true.
That's the mask coming in. 100%. The fem is more actually trusting that inner guidance that you're getting, So I feel like it's a bit of both in that regard. But yeah, we do want to fix things, and us as mothers especially, we want to, save our children.
Of course.
But the thing here, and it does take a lot of deep, deep trust and surrendering.
Big time.
Is that, our children are okay, and they're going to be okay. We need to allow their bodies to do what their bodies need to do in order to fight off things themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about I'm saying if they've got an infection or something, of course, yes, there's a time and place for Western medicine, and I'm never going to deny that. Like, I've had to give Manaya antibiotics just last week. First time in his whole entire life, because he had an infection that we couldn't fight off naturally. He needed that extra support.
There's a time and place for it.
So then what we do, we focus now on gut health and restoring that, that gut health through probiotics and, even, the adrenal cocktails that we can do with coconut water and salt and orange juice, all different things like that. And, I have this powder that I give the kids, and it's got all the good things in it, the beef livers, camel, all the natural,
to help detoxify their gut?
Yeah. That with the probiotics as well.
Yeah.
And a gut health specialist, we can restore their gut health, especially if from babies, you've done all the things to help, seal that gut. Mm-hmm. Then yes, 100%.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge, huge, huge advocate for going in with the natural remedies first. And if you've, exhausted all your options or all your revenues, or what you feel is best, then definitely going with, going to seek that professional guidance.
I had that with the eczema. It lasted so long, and it was getting super red, especially around his neck, because of the onesies would rub up against it, and then the patches on the skin. But he never ever showed signs of pain, and he never really scratched. Maybe a little bit in the bath, but he was never
It would be more us that felt more than they would.
100%. It was way more of a me thing than a him thing.
Yes.
And
it triggers you.
100%.
Motherhood triggers you
oh
in
my
so
God,
many
I'm a shit
different
mum, I can't do this. And I had to be really careful who I told, because there were women who were like, all right, you've tried the natural stage for too long. Yeah. You need to go see a doctor or go to... And I did do the doctor just to suss, and he straight away went the steroids. And I was like...
They don't go to the root cause.
No.
9 times out of 10, I don't want to make a full generalisation, because my GP is amazing and he wouldn't prescribe that straight away. Mm-hmm. But... as a generalisation, they're going to go in with a cortisone cream or a steroid cream. And it doesn't actually... Because it's a quick fix for them.
And that was my issue. It wasn't addressing the root cause. It was just Band-Aid. And I know...
And were you still breastfeeding him at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so literally his eczema is coming from you and your gut health.
Mm-hmm.
That's where it stems from. Not his gut health. It's yours. And that's what my friend is literally going through now. And she's working with Dr. Jen. You know Dr. Jen?
Yeah.
She's working very closely with Dr. Jen, and she's had to literally go in with eating the beef cheek broths, the sardines, completely change her whole diet to restore her gut, which then restores her milk, which then restores baby's gut.
Yeah, because he was only 4 months. Of course.
Oh
my God, I'm just thinking back now. I'm like, what was I eating? So I was just going back into it.
And it is that. It's you need to go into those animal fats and those deep, deep products of animal sources that help with your gut as well.
Yeah. It's such a learning curve with diet. But like I said, being a mum, it's such a catalyst for really honing in on your own health, because it domino effects onto them. And because especially when you're breastfeeding, you still have that connection. Yeah. And it was funny because I felt like I tried 98 different things I changed shampoos, laundry detergent.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
I changed, he wasn't even having body wash. I was putting a bit of breast milk, or I was putting a bit of, what else? A little bit of vitamin C powder in there as well.
I just used to do olive oil.
Olive oil. I did olive oil. I did coconut oil. I did breast milk. I did all these things, and I had tried 1,000 different things, and it was that 1,001 things that actually worked. So I changed his detergent, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make my own, and I did. And it had, essential oils are beautiful. I use them every day, but sometimes they're just a little bit too much for a baby.
Yeah, they don't need anything.
No, they don't need anything.
And that's the same with me. I make my own laundry detergent. I make my own body wash for the kids. I make my own dishwashing liquid. I make my own dishwashing powder for the dishwasher.
Yeah.
All of them. I'm very conscious of that, because once again there are so many external toxins and pollutions
brand
out
new in
there.
this world. It's like bang, they get hit with 1,000 different things.
Their bodies can't handle like
breaks my heart.
external, you know. So we've really got to ensure that what we have around our home is nourishing them. Yeah.
Well, that was the one thing. So the minute I changed it, I washed every single one of his clothes. I just chucked him in the wash, and I did the baby
what were you
gentle.
using prior? Because you were using
it was all
low
organic.
tox.
It was low tox. I tried 4 different types, and then I made my own, and I took out most of the stuff. And I think it was lavender essential oils. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm because I tried something else at the same time. I tried colloidal silver spray as well on it.
Colloidal silver's next level.
Yeah, and they were the 2 things that actually worked. But it's funny because you try so many things and you don't actually really know what it was.
It's a process of elimination. And
100%.
I feel that's with like everything to do with children, isn't it?
Well, that's the thing. Like I wanted to do before. Like steroids was the absolute last thing, and I gave it a really good crack for a month, and then like as I tried, I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna have to go to steroids. And then it was like, it's always the way. It's just like you feel like giving up before you reach there, and then with anything in life. And then I got there, and I was like, thank God, I was so happy that I didn't have to do that.
Like you did it for that as well. And sometimes like, my friend's on a 4-month journey with eczema. Like 1 month isn't long at all.
Yeah.
I know it seems long once you're in the pits of it because you're literally in the pits.
Because that's all you think about.
But it's actually not long. Like 4 weeks to try and clear something that's happening from internal. Like it's actually not a long time. Sometimes they need 6 to 12 months.
It was probably longer than that, but I think I gave it a really good crack for a month.
Like you were focused. Yeah.
And then it slowly went away because it was he hasn't had it back since. Fine. Nothing.
And he's on solids now, eating all the things.
Yeah.
I
finished breastfeeding at 14 months.
Yep.
And now he's just has raw milk, and he's just pretty clean kid. I don't think he's
good. No, that's good.
Yeah, it's good. I'm proud of it. It's a lot of work, but
honestly, you do amazing with just his meals and like what you give him, what you allow him to have, and what you don't allow him to have is so important.
I'm very strict with what he puts in his body. Like he hasn't had sugar yet, and I'm just going to try and push that for as long as possible because I feel like the minute that starts, the freaking floodgates open.
And I remember when I started my daughter, like I guess with a treat or a chocolate, like her first Easter.
How old was she?
She would have been 14, 15 months on Easter, but we did the carob.
Yeah, so it wasn't chocolate. It wasn't like...
We did, the Banjo Bears?
Yeah, it wasn't...
They had Banjo Bear, like...
Cadbury.
Oh, God, no. They had, don't get me wrong, now, they'll go to my mother-in-law's and they'll be like, we ate this and we ate that. And I'll be like, oh, really? Oh, really? But you've got to pick your battles as well.
You do. 100%.
But definitely, in my household, I will do, the organic chocolate, the vegan, refined sugar-free chocolate, or we'll do, the carob.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, other kids will come over and I'll give her a Banjo Bear and they'll be like, what's this? But my kids are like, oh, it's a treat, yay!
They don't know any better.
They don't. They've had a Freddo Frog. Yeah. But they know that the Banjo Bear's a treat.
Yeah. This is what's in the house.
And that's a treat to them.
It's like, poor Mark is just like, what do we got? If we're at night and we're a bit snacky, he's like, what's in the fridge or pantry? I'm like, nothing. He's like, for fuck's sake, there's nothing here.
Tristan and I still low-key sometimes will stash a Mars bar or a Snickers,
Yeah, we have our little hiding
just
section.
for when the kids aren't around.
Yeah, because we have that off button. We know how to have 1 or 2. They don't have that. It's different.
And their bodies are still, look, not that I'm justifying, we shouldn't be eating shit either. But, for their little bodies, to have that much sugar, it's crazy. Crazy. Especially my middle child, he can't handle it. He literally cannot handle preservative and he can't handle sugar.
He was your first home birth too.
Oh, no. So my middle, I was talking about Manaya. So I had a home birth for Amari.
Oh, you didn't have a home birth for Manaya?
No. I was at home until I basically was in transition. And I birthed at the hospital and went home straight away. Oh,
I thought you had the 2 home births.
No. So Alira was a bit of a traumatic hospital birth. And then I got pregnant I birthed 18 months after Alira. So quite close together. And at that time, I actually didn't have anybody in my circle or my community that was home birthing.
Wow, yeah.
So I wasn't exposed to that.
Yeah.
I literally probably...
You didn't even know it was an option. Yeah.
Exactly right. I knew water birth was an option, but I didn't know home birth was.
Yeah.
So I literally remember, like, with Manaya's birth, like, I literally just went to the hospital and he was born, like, 30 minutes later and then we went home kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was so funny because my body was putting up so much resistance to actually go to the hospital. I remember I was labouring on the couch and Tristan and Nigella were like, okay, like, I think it's time to get in the car and go. And I was like, yeah, just get... My body didn't want to leave, you know. And
such a beautiful thing, that instinct, isn't it, when you're pregnant?
Yeah. And then I went on to 2.5 years, like, after Manaya, we fell pregnant with Amari, and it was all, like, the COVID, everything was going on, and I delved deep into, like, personal development, self-development, self-growth, trauma healing, childhood wound, all the things, you know. I went really, really deep into that, and I remember saying to one of my friends, who's literally one of my best friends now, Sophie, and she had she had had 2 beautiful home births at the time. I think she had just given birth to her littlest, and I remember saying, like, on a call with this, like, a group of women, and I was like, you know, if I was to ever get pregnant again, like, I'll be having a home birth. And probably 6 months later, we fell pregnant with Amari, and I remember just turning to my partner Tristan, and I just said to him, we're going to have a home birth. And he said, okay.
Really? So he was so open.
Well, this is the thing, and this is 100% going to trigger some people. 100%. If your partner deeply trusts you, like, trusts you to his core, yeah, he will not question your decision making. No. At all. So. And I don't care what anyone says. You can be like, oh, but it's the partner's baby too. And he has to say, you're birthing, it's your body, it's your vagina, you're growing the baby, you're doing the work, okay? If he can't trust you and hold your hand through that process, there's a line there of something that has to be talked about.
Do you know that I agree with you purely because I went through that.
Yeah, so, I know you did, 100%.
So when obviously we tried for a home birth. Yeah. We ended up having Atlas in the hospital. Yeah. But when I decided, when we fell pregnant, I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this, because at the start, for a long time, I had private health. I knew I was going to be in a private hospital, and then I was like, then a year after that, I was like, it was COVID. I lost my job. Yes. I was like, do I really need to pay for this? And then that kind of stripped away. I was like, don't worry about it. Yeah. And then I didn't have private anymore, so it was like guiding me into that way, and then
coming back to self.
Exactly, trusting me, and it was all kind of happening that way. Deep slowly.
Trust and surrender again, isn't it? Always.
I felt it. I was like, all right, this is not... I kind of just went with it. Normally I would be like fighting it. I would be like, nah, I'll whatever it is to keep that private. But I was like, I don't really care if it's gone. Yeah. And then it went, and then I was like, maybe I'll just go public. Yeah. And then, and then you had Amari, and then there was a couple other holistic mums that had home births. And I was like, fuck, this is an option for me. Yeah. And then but when I'd said to myself that I was going to have a home birth, I wasn't 100%. So when I told Mark that, he was like,
because you weren't
because I wasn't confident, and he felt
if you came with full conviction of this is what we're doing. Exactly. There's no other option besides birthing this baby at home. Yeah. Like if you were so deep to your core in that, he would have been like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's what happened between then and then. So he started.
I feel like it's harder with your first. Like I'm coming from a place where I've already birthed before.
Of course.
Okay. I do know women that have only home birthed and never even stepped foot in a hospital.
Yeah, me too.
Like I know them and they're amazing, but 25-year-old Amelia, I really don't hand on heart. I really don't think I would have been able to handle a home birth because I mentally wasn't I didn't have a mental capacity to go there. Because when you home birth, every single thing that you have left undone in your life or unhealed or pushed away or pushed down, it comes up.
Of course it does.
It comes up in pregnancy.
It does.
And especially the last couple of weeks. Oh, wow, my pregnancy journey with Amari, like I just got a whole flush down my body.
It's intense.
Like the shit that I had to process and go through. Like I'm talking like, and this is so like bringing up so many different things, but
I love it.
I'm talking like childhood trauma and grief of my dad dying. Oh, that I remember like for 3 days I was on the couch, like this rocking.
But he passed away when you were young.
Yeah, he passed away when I was 6.
Wow.
But because it was such like, I guess, a shock to the system of him passing, we didn't have like a proper grieving. You know how you need to grieve, but we were probably so young, didn't understand all the things. We never got to fully probably grieve as children because you don't really know how to grieve, do you?
No.
And then
you're
growing up,
copying your parents.
And then, like, honestly, my mum didn't have that emotional connection to be able to grieve either because she just had to go. She had two daughters that she had to look, show up for and be present for and be okay for, So it's just so funny how in pregnancy, all this stuff to do with my dad's death was coming up.
Wow.
To the point where my stomach broke out in these hives.
What?
Yeah, and hives hives can be connected to like liver, and liver can be connected to grief.
Emotion, wow. And like, how did you know, like, what was the catalyst that you realised you're like, all right, this is due to my dad? What was it?
Look, there was a couple of things. There was something like an incident that happened that brought up emotions that I knew it was like, oh, okay, that's to do with dad. But also the mask energy. Okay, so I always sat in my mask forever.
Same.
I was never fem. Ever.
We're very similar in that regard, I feel.
Like when I say ever, like I never sat in my fem.
Yeah.
And after I had my second child, who was a boy, I remember, again, we were doing self-development, self-healing, and it was on a call that I realised, oh my gosh, that's why I suffered from postpartum depression with him and didn't like have as much of a strong connection with him than I did with Alira.
Wow.
Was because I was fighting the mask energy. Manaya's mask energy was coming through. I had to literally pull down my guard of my mask energy and bring in that fem to be able to connect deeply with my son. I was in, like after my dad passed, I was in survival mode in mask. And that's how I protected myself growing up, being in mask mode, being in control. Always having the answer, always fixing things, people pleasing, all the things. That's all mask.
I am just saying, my soul is going, yep.
So that was after my second child, but my first son.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, like, literally God gifted me a child, a boy, to help me heal my heart, and help heal the masculine energy of our linears, not just mine, but my partners as well, and everybody else who surrounds us, with that energy. And it's just, honestly, that has been the biggest game changer for me when I gave myself deep surrendering and embracing my feminine and allowing things to be. And when I say to be, like taking a step back and not having to control everything in your life.
It's a bit funny, isn't it? We just want to make sure that everything is perfect. Like my first trimester was the most triggering thing I have ever been through in my life. Because we just got married, so I was the fittest.
It was a big transition for you.
I was the fittest and skinniest I think I've ever been in my life, and fitness has been my
number one.
My number one in regards to healing. I wouldn't even say healing. I would say distracting from my actual deep work. It was healing because I didn't have to fucking worry about it. It was distraction. And I just distracted. And I, from the age of 16 to the age of 34 when I fell pregnant, I was in my masculine as well. From when my dad left the house.
The daddy issues. The
daddy issues, mate. I know.
We need another podcast just on that.
Take two. But that was the thing. Like I was very girly, feminine. You know what? I wasn't. I was actually quite masculine. Like the way I was very tomboyish.
Me too.
But when he left, I had to protect my mum, protect my brother. I had to be
I took on that role too.
And that was where I got angry. I've said this a few times. The anger, the hiding, the drinking, the adolescence, the growth, all that sort of shit, as well as dealing with hormones and turning into going into a teenager, into a young. There's so much going on. But then I got into exercise. I started training, distract me from my shit that I thought I actually healed because I actually dabbled into that. I did a little bit of it. I acknowledged it.
Surface level.
Surface level. But then there is no pure way of getting into your femme than falling pregnant. And that is like the optimal...
Or healing.
Or
seeing what, your shadow work.
Exactly. That was female pregnancy is like the optimal female health. Like this is it. you know, and then when you get there, it's like, I was so sick that I literally felt like I was on a ship seasick for 22 weeks of my pregnancy. Like I couldn't do anything. It was so ugly.
I know, it was. I was like that with the boys, literally.
It was, it must be a boy thing, and but I was sick as.
Days where you just like,
I went from the bed to the couch, to couch.
Couldn't stomach anything, no fluid, I know.
It's so ugly. And thank God, like didn't love COVID obviously, but being at home was a blessing because I was working at the gym.
That was same with me, and that was same with me for postpartum as well with my third.
It was good to just
actually made me slow down.
Not have weddings, not have events, just stay home.
With my other babies, like, you know, I had weddings, I was in wedding parties, like I was engagements, like, you know, 3 weeks after.
So much going on.
So much, and literally when I remember when I had Amara, so he was born like this time last year, but we had gone into a snap lockdown on the Friday. I went into labour with him on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is, if I was in a hospital system, you know, we would have had to wear masks in labour. He would have had to wear a mask. He wouldn't have been able to come into the hospital system with me until I was in like full active labour. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like that can be so detrimental to birth.
That was another big reason why I didn't want to do that, because I was like, we're going through COVID. Yeah. If you can't be there, no way.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Women need support. Women need community. They need a village. You know, they need their support system and their support crew when they're birthing, 100%.
Having them there.
Honestly, it was just even more of a blessing in disguise that I was so adamant that I was home birthing because, like I said, we went into a snap lockdown on the Friday. He was born on the Sunday. And I didn't have to worry.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You're in your home. Anyone could come visit you if you wanted them to.
Yeah, if I needed support,
your mum.
If you needed support when you weren't meant to still have visitors in COVID or whatever, you could still have support in your home birth.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no rule saying that you can't have support in a home birth at home during COVID.
No.
You know, so the fact that, you know, I was blessed to be able to still have that was really, really, really good.
That's beautiful.
But yeah, it's just funny how, like, you know, the journeys of pregnancy and birth and everything.
Man.
And, you know, once you go through the birth or the stages of birth, and then you can deeply really understand them, isn't it?
100%.
And you're like, oh, okay, well, if I just did this, then maybe this. Yeah?
That was with what I was saying before about, like, when I fell pregnant, I had a war in my head. I had a war of the masculine going, but you need to train, but you need to do this, but you need to clean the house, but you need to vacuum the floor, you need to do this, you need to go get shopping, do this, cook, blah, blah, blah. And my fam was just like, just sit the fuck down, bitch. Just stop. Do not go anywhere. You have to nurture that baby. Yeah. And you just have to be. And there was no transition from the from the masculine to femme. It was just bang.
Yeah.
And it was really intense. I fell into a bit of depression.
It's a lot.
It was so much. But I look back now and I'm like, that was such medicine for me.
Yeah.
Because,
for growth.
Oh my God, like I had body shit. I was gaining weight and of course I was pregnant.
Yeah.
But that was like, oh my God, I was looking at myself. I'm like, oh, there goes all my hard work.
That's what I was like with Leo. I had a 6-pack before I fell pregnant with Leo. I was training 6 days a week. I was the same.
Oh my God. And that, going through that was so intense. And then I was like, I'm never going to snap back. And now I'm just like, I don't look like the way I did before Atlas. And I'm so okay with that.
With me.
I don't give a shit anymore because I do the work with my health. Like I don't train as much as I did it anymore because
it's different training though. Because your body needs different training in different seasons of life.
Of course.
And that's what we need to honour as well, especially as women. Like, even different stages of the month of our cycle. You know?
Of course. There is no chance I'm training during my bleed.
There's no way, like my first day, I'm not going to go lift heavy weights.
Shit.
Do you know what I mean?
I used to, and then I would be like, what am I doing? Because I knew my intuition was like, mate, you should be chilling. You should be chilling. And now I honour that.
That's our release. Our bleed is our release.
But by the birth, like, even, like, we ended up, Atlas was breech posterior and we ended up transferring and I had a C-section.
Yeah.
And even that, the thought of having a C-section, I had to do a lot of processing over that because there was feelings of failure.
Yeah.
There was feelings of, like, mainly failure.
Yeah, like they're not being good enough.
I failed.
Yeah.
I had a C-section.
Yeah.
And I was like, but I look back now and it was such a mental thing for me because I reached out for help and I was like, because I saw the meconium come out of me.
Oh my God, babe, that's exactly what it is. And this is literally what I said to this midwife the other day. I said, and this is nothing to do with hospital births because, like, I have best friends who birth in the hospital and that's an amazing experience for them.
Of course.
But I remember in my transition with my home birth, I said in my head, no wonder people go to the hospital and just go and get, like, pain relief straight away because this is fucking intense. Nobody's coming to save me here.
What's the units of pain?
I've got to save myself.
You do.
And that's what it is. And honestly, it takes every single ounce of mental strength and resilience and deep, but the thing is, it's deep trust and surrender.
The thought of doing it again now gives me proper anxiety.
But even me, I'm not kidding, even me, I've had a successful home birth. Bro, like, sitting here right now, even thinking about getting pregnant and having a home birth again, I'm like, how am I going to do it? What if I come back? What am I
doing with the other kids?
It's so normal. It's so normal.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. It is literally a mind game. And we think we're mentally strong because we do all the things. We do meditation, we do the breath work, we do this, we do that. But if you're not literally going through the hard yards...
Sitting in the mud.
Sitting in the fucking pits of the shit, you're not doing it.
The only way out is through.
Yeah. And that's big for birth will bring up everything. And whatever you haven't healed prior to birth shows up in your birth.
Of course.
It's deep, babe. It's deep.
That was just before my grandmother, my nonna, passed away.
Yeah.
And I feel like I didn't do a lot of processing through that because I had to protect my baby and I didn't want to grieve in a way where I had to cry. And I did it oh shit. There we go. Fuck.
See, I did that. What you said that you didn't do, I did. And that's what came up.
Wow.
Because obviously I didn't do enough healing or grieving over my dad's death growing up because we didn't get a chance to or whatever it was. I didn't get to do that. So it got brought up in my in my pregnancy before my home birth. I remember it was January.
Lucky you did before the birth. That's great.
It was January. He was born in June.
Wow.
Like I can picture it. Like I can see it.
It's like the cycles too of like summer and then winter. Like it's the cycles.
The seasons of life. It is. And it's funny that you bring that up because, I sat in that grieving. I sat in that shit. I worked through it. I processed it. I journaled. I wrote letters. I cried. I wailed, cradling like a child for 2 freaking days on the couch. No joke. I did the hard shit in January to make sure that it didn't show up in my birth.
Did you have a chat to your mum about it at all?
Briefly, probably more so Tristan, and it was literally my birth keeper. I spoke to her about everything. Yeah, like she would come over and we just like chatted for like I'm not even joking 2-3 hours.
That's beautiful.
She's amazing.
Martina.
Martina. She's absolutely amazing. And yeah, so she would listen and she would help me process.
Because that's a big part of it. It's letting go of all that stuff. Like I remember Emily, who took over Martina in Melbourne. She was my birth keeper, and we did a little bit of the processing of the talking and stuff, but like I don't know, I think I had this martyr mentality of I didn't want to feel it because I felt like I was going through so much already physically by being pregnant that I didn't want to go to the pits. There were just walls. There was so many walls and it was just like...
Wow, I just can't believe this is all coming up now, isn't it? Like
crazy.
It's crazy how like, you know, and your birth wasn't a failure. It wasn't a failure.
I know that now. It
definitely wasn't because it's brought you to here now and you're realising these things that you didn't do in pregnancy and that you were avoiding. Avoidance. You know, that you were avoiding and it shows up later.
Like, I see home births now and breech births and I'm just like, I could have done that.
100% you could have. On my hand on heart, I never doubted that your capabilities as a woman to be able to birth.
No. I think it was the minute I saw the meconium and then I reached out for the help. I'm like, is this a bad thing? And I remember Em saying it could be because I didn't feel him moving. Yeah. She's like, it could be. And that was all I needed to hear was like, call the ambulance. And that's what I mean.
And that's probably also because of that, you know, maybe a little bit lack of trust.
Yeah, I didn't trust myself.
Overall as well. You know, because It's scary. It can be scary,
the percentage of anything going wrong, it always could. And I understand her
Yeah.
logic behind it, but it wasn't nothing to do with her. It was all me.
Yeah.
It was all me of that.
Yeah, she's just there as a soundboard.
That was it,
Yeah.
where I needed to go in. And she says this, or Emily says this a lot, like she goes, the first time I had the baby, a home birth, I knew that the second time I didn't need anybody there, because you don't really.
Yeah.
And, you know, like she said this to me a few times, like if you have a baby, regardless of what you do, 9-10 months, it's going to fall out of you. It's going to come out of you.
Like, this is what I say to people, like people who are so fearful of birth, and I bring it back to like when you're actually going to the toilet.
Yeah.
And you're releasing the bowels. Literally, if you
gonna
actually
happen
break it down, and it's an involuntary process that the body knows how to do, if you deeply trust, surrender, and allow it, it will happen. Because it is. When your baby comes out and the baby's crowning and the ring of fire comes, it's that pressure like you're going to poo yourself.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It does, because it's on your perineum.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if we deeply trust and surrender, just like when you're on the toilet, you don't sit there crouching up, not letting the poo come out, do you?
Can you imagine?
But you know, it's the same thing. We get into like this, like you hold on. You need to fully be like,
I know.
Release, like down in the deep release, and baby will flow. Like,
it's hard work. It's hard work. I remember
so
there was
hard.
a moment where I was the pool, because we had the pool all done, but I was like, Em's like, get out of the pool, see if we can like go on the toilet, because you're naturally designed to release there. So yeah, exactly right. Just repeating what you're saying.
No, but it's true.
Yeah, and she's like, grab onto the pool handles and go into a deep squat during the contraction.
Yes.
And I remember the pain, and instantly I stood up, and she's like, get down. I'm like, I can't. Yeah. And I could, but it was just those walls.
It's that mental, I can't do it, but you actually really can.
You can.
Yeah.
I know I
it's
can.
pushing through your limits of what you think you actually are capable of.
I know. And there's a sign of me there's a part of me that I'm so fearful of birth again because of that. But at the same time, I'm like, I just want to do it to prove to myself that I can do it.
Yes.
So there's there's that wall
it's a
between.
Fine line, isn't it?
Such a fine
but
line.
That's even like with me. Like, and I've done a home birth. Like I said, like I've had a home birth and there was no complications. Everything was fine. You know, probably textbook home birth. Like, Martina came like maybe 45 an hour before birth. I had Tristan there and I had Nigella. You know, like, no
Who's
issues.
Nigella, your sister?
Nigella is Tristan's cousin, but like she's like my sister-in-law, you know.
Yeah,
we just
quite
say
close.
she's my sister-in-law. Yeah, very close. She's my best friend. And yeah, she was at Manaya's birth, and she's there as like, she's kind of like my postpartum doula as well. Like she'll stay with me for a couple of nights, help me overnight with the baby.
Did she have any experience in that before, in birth?
No, like being like, I guess, Maori, they have a lot of babies in their families growing up. So she had seen births before, like with her cousins in hospital.
Yeah.
She has, I guess, a carer's background in regards to aged care and looking after people and things like that. But not birth trained or anything in that aspect. But no, she's just a very nurturing and caring person, and a calming person in my space.
Yeah, that's what you need.
So yeah, she's always my go-to for birth or after birth. So yeah, that's kind of like my birth crew is just me, Tristan, Nigella all the time, and then if we have a birth keeper or a midwife, that's what we've always done, like throughout all of our pregnancies. Tristan and I, with the first birth, it was just Tristan and I at the hospital, because that's all we wanted. But after that, we brought Nigella into it just for extra support if we needed anything, you know?
It's nice to have, because you guys want to just enjoy the moment, enjoy that bubble, and just not have to do anything. Like, you know, you just want Tristan or your partner there by your side without having to do. So having that extra set of hands is super helpful.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. But, I think going into, like, motherhood and, you know, dealing with everything that comes up in motherhood, it's definitely a reflection on how we were brought up as children and how we were shown love, or even how if we had space held for us to, you know, show emotions and regulate emotions. I feel like that's probably been my biggest thing in motherhood, or maybe my biggest challenge.
Especially because you've got older kids, like one's toddler, one's in primary school, like... the regulation is all happening. Like, I'm starting to see glimpses of that now with Atlas. He's 17 months now, and I'm starting to see the the frustration and then the slamming on the ground and then the me going,
reacting,
but I catch myself doing it, and I'm just like, it's all good, give him a cuddle, he'll calm down, and then continue with the day. And as soon as his chest touches mine, he's fine.
They need the regulation. They need to know that their emotions are okay, no matter how big or wild we think they are or inappropriate we think they may be. You know, we need to allow them to fully feel those emotions, because it's literally a cycle. Like for us, we obviously had emotions that we didn't deal with, like with our dads and whatever else happened in our childhoods, you know, and you know that was brought up in pregnancy, that was brought up in birth, and now we get to choose how we move forward parenting our babies, so then they don't have to go through what we've been through.
100%, because like just because my emotions are stupid to somebody else, it doesn't mean that they're not real and that they're not valid. Exactly.
100%.
We're all living these very, very real, human, messy experiences.
Yes, it's all experience, isn't it?
It is, and I want him to, especially being a boy and a man in the future, he needs to feel that, and to feel that real, be in his power and be able to, like, I want the absolute best for him, and by pretending his emotions don't exist, I'm gonna be the reason he's gone to therapy in his 30s.
Exactly. Like, if we do not allow our children, especially our males, like, oh my gosh,
pressure. There's so much pressure with raising men.
Don't be a sook. Like, don't cry like a girl. Like,
don't be a girl.
All these things,
oh my God.
You know, we need to make sure that we are allowing our children and helping our children, or supporting our children, I should say, by allowing them to regulate their emotions, but us holding the space for them, so they don't think that them regulating emotions or them showing emotions is wrong.
Yeah. No, they're allowed to. But also there's such a fine...
Stop crying?
No. There's even such a fine line, like, you know, I'm all about the gentle parenting, but the gentle about you not showing your emotions, like, I don't, like... there's going to be a time where I crack the shits, and like he's going to see that, but I want him to see that, because at least he can see that,
and it's an experience that you get
exactly together. And I'm going to like probably freak out and maybe lose it at him, but then I'll come back and be like, because I've thought about this, I'm like, what am I going to do if I do lose my shit? And I'll take 5 and I'll come back and I'm like, sorry babe, but like you really frustrated mum and she just had a moment, but like I'm sorry and I apologize and move on from it. Whereas like, you know, I'd even see the older generation and our parents' generation, they can't handle the sooking. No. Because they weren't allowed to do the sooking.
No, it was very like boom, boom, boom.
Shut up, don't sook, don't do this. Yes. Even when like me and my mum were talking about this the other day of going to visitors, when they went to visitors, like, don't touch the food. And then they'll be like, get off of the food.
My mum just did the eyes to us, and me and my sister knew that. That's what we had to do. Okay, stop everything you're doing. Mum's looking at us. It is.
But yeah, my mum was telling me, she's like, when she was a kid and we used to go do visity, like the visit to the wogs, and she was told in the car, do not touch the food. And then the guests would offer, and she'd be like, no, and then be like, why didn't you take it? You're rude for not offering. She's like, what? So that was like this push and pull, and so much confusion.
It's the people pleasing. Because it's the judgment of what are other people going to think of me and my children.
That's that generation, though. That was what it was all about. Bad. And I see it leaked into my days all the time. It's like, well, what are they going to think? Or Atlas is dirty. Shit, we're going out in public. Or like little things like that.
I catch myself in surrender too, deeply.
Yeah, and I'm like, he's a kid. He's allowed to be dirty.
Yeah.
Like there's all these little things that I catch myself doing. I'm like, wow. But like that's the first bit of evolution and cutting that ancestral trauma.
It's changing the game with us.
But he's just learning it. He's just recognizing it. It's just like,
it's the first step, isn't it?
If you don't know what's happening, how can you stop it?
Yeah.
So I try and catch myself out doing it as much as possible.
Breaking these intergenerational traumas and belief systems, and it's huge, babe. It's so huge.
But in saying that as well, like there's so many beautiful things that my nonna did with my mum and my mum did with me.
Yeah.
And it's all about taking what you love and just leaving what doesn't fit with you.
Yeah, what no longer serves you, you can leave behind. Of course. And it's so okay. It doesn't take away from the beautiful, you know, childhood that we still did have with our mothers. You know what I mean? Because I know your mum's very loving and caring, just like my mum's very loving and caring. Yeah, it doesn't take away anything from that. No. We get to do it different.
Of course.
And not that it's better, but we get to do it different.
Our way.
Yeah.
Just like they did it their way.
Yeah.
Like, I know that my mum try to give me as much freedom as possible when I was growing up and getting, you know, as in like having my first boyfriend and doing things. She'd try to give me as much freedom as possible, as well as boundaries and being respectful. And
that was like my mum too.
But still, because she had zero of it.
Zero boundaries or zero?
No, zero freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, like, my mum was Irish Catholic family.
Yeah, my nonna very strict Italian family. My mum wasn't allowed to do anything. I remember my mum saying that my grandmother chased her around the house with a knife because she had nail polishes on her hands. Yes, like, it's little things like that. It's like, wow. And that is from people pleasing. What are other people going to say if you're wearing nail polish? Yeah. And it's just like, we've moved to Australia and it's just like all these little things.
It's all the, it is. It's that village mentality of being in Italy as well, isn't it? That, you know, the talk. Everybody talks about everybody. Yeah.
But we're in a big city now and there's just so much going on and just like what other people think.
The people-pleasing hat's come off, mate. Like, it's done.
It is.
It's done a long time ago because, honestly, it doesn't serve anybody.
Especially
it doesn't serve us trying to be people-pleasing, and it doesn't serve the person that we're actually trying to please because it's not authentic.
Especially when you have kids. My people-pleasing hat came off the minute I felt pregnant. Yeah. Big time. Like, it's still there, but not as much.
So I had a really bad habit of, like, not being able to say no to people if they wanted something or if, like, they wanted to see me or whatever. And that was one of my biggest lessons in, pregnancy was really just having that boundary of saying no to people if I couldn't do
things, isn't it?
It is. It's the little things that really make the biggest changes in your life. And that's what people say, like, you know, even when, like, say, growing a business or, you know, doing this. It is all the baby steps that get it going, but that all those little things that you do daily and consistently creates the bigger picture and the bigger goal.
But this experience alone, I can't even tell you how much shit is exposed in myself of healing. Like, the vulnerability of being in a camera and listening to your voice. And I know everyone says this, but hearing your own voice, it's the weirdest thing.
It's funny because that's been coming up in my business. So I do social selling, network marketing. I'm an online business mentor in the network marketing space. And it's funny, we've had a couple of people come into our business and I was the same at the start. Because they're like, you know, voice note your customer and say them this. And we're like, do you know how many times I deleted voice notes?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I was like, my voice. Nah, I can't.
But what about the difference with friends voice noting friends? No problem.
Nah. No. Don't. Mate, I'll voice note you all day. Like, but when you put something else in front of it, like, this is my business.
Yeah.
You know?
There's pressure.
Or even, you know, it might be a new customer that's come in and wants to, like, you know, purchase my shampoo or purchase the oil. And they're like, they want to know more. Well, the best thing to do is voice note them so then we know they can hear my voice and they can see that I'm authentic about it, you know, especially if they don't know me and they've just come to my page.
And, like, I think voice is just the best way to tell a story or a situation. Yes. Text messages are the same as before. And then, you know, drafting a big text, it's too much. You overthink
Imagine I messaged you this big message when you bought shampoo with me. You would have been like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, just tell me what shampoo I need.
Tell me how to do it. True.
Imagine I sent you a text like this long.
Honestly, when you're so busy and doing so much stuff,
if we don't have time to sit there,
I probably wouldn't have read it, to be completely honest.
Well, that's exactly right. And then I would have messaged you back saying, hey babe, did you get a chance to read my text message above? You know, it's a lot. We're so busy. And so I had to literally get over myself real quick. I was like, if I want to be successful in the online space, I need to get over myself.
But I think people love the messy, the clumsy, because that's how we all are.
Yeah, like, you don't have to be, like, yes, there's a professionalism.
There is.
Be yourself. Be authentic. Be true. Let them hear your voice. Let them hear, like, your kids screaming in the background so they know that that's how you run a business. Like, I homeschool. I have my kids at home. Alira and I go one day a week to, like, a homeschool hub, and otherwise they're with me. They don't go to, like, mainstream school, kinder, nothing. They're with me. So my kids are always there in the background, making noise. Like, a Saturday's probably the day that I do get to have uninterrupted time because my mother-in-law and Nigella will help me with the kids. But besides that, like, I have them all the time. So, like, that's what I'm building. I'm building a business at home, from home, with my children there. I don't want to be away from them.
You're a super mum. That's amazing.
It's not easy. I try. Like, it's, you know, I feel like, to me, I don't even look at it as a super mum. To me, I look at it, I'm doing what needs to be done to build a future for my family.
Tell me a little bit about the homeschool stuff. Like, what was the catalyst for that?
Oh, jeez. A few different things. Okay, I guess what really closed the deal for me was that my daughter was not comfortable being in an environment of a school. emotionally. Okay? We did try, but I was not, how do I put this? I was not ready, or I didn't want to put her through emotional trauma of the separation anxiety that she was already had, okay? Because 100% she has taken on a portion of my anxious and my anxiety from my childhood trauma. It plays out in her already.
Do you reckon that happened through pregnancy?
I did not do the work before I fell pregnant with her.
Yeah.
At all. At all.
You reckon it stems from that?
100%.
Yeah.
There's actually no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Like, I can see myself in her 10 times over. So some people will say, some people will say to me, oh, that's your own stuff not, coming up. And I'm like, yeah, it is my own stuff coming up. But why would I, if I don't have to yet, I'm at home, so my daughter doesn't need to go to school. Yeah, it's not like I'm going to work a 9 to 5 and I have no other option. Why would I leave her in a space that she was like, when I say she was so emotional, I've never seen her like that, to the point where my breast milk started leaking at the primary school. I remember we were there with the principal.
Oh,
my breast milk was leaking, and all the teachers are telling me to leave her.
Because it happens a lot.
She has her heels in the ground, like done. And I said, that's when I was like, I'm not fucking doing it. Okay?
Your heart would have crumbled watching
Crumbled?
that.
Like, why would I put extra trauma on my daughter who's already got a portion of my trauma? Why would I create more trauma and separation anxiety for her just to go to school?
The guilt would already be there.
She's 6 years old.
Yeah, she's a kid, man.
She doesn't need to, like, go every single day, Monday to Friday, 9 till 3, and be in a space like that. She doesn't thrive off that at all. She was crying at lunch. She only went for like 3 or 4 days as well.
And it was still traumatic for her.
Yeah, no. And I'm an educator, yeah? I have an advanced diploma in business management in the childcare sector.
There you go.
Like, my goal before I had children was to open up a childcare sector and run it.
Really?
Yeah, and that's what I was working towards.
It's funny how the pieces fall together.
Yeah, so I know. If anyone knows, I've done it. I used to tell the parents the same thing. It's okay, they'll be fine. It's just a bit of anxiety, a bit of separation. They'll be fine 5 minutes after you leave. I was that one doing it, so I get it. I know, yeah?
Because a lot of parents say that. All kids go through that phase.
They do, but I was, once again, because of the trauma that I had in childhood, and it's come through onto my daughter already.
There'd be guilt there already because you didn't do it for you.
100%. So why would I instill more trauma when I don't have to?
No, I agree.
So yes, it was that, but moving forward, it is like, we can be open and honest, yeah?
Of course.
It is the...
That's what the podcast is called.
It is the inclusive equality that they're teaching in primary schools at the moment that I literally do not at all agree with, and I do not want my children to be exposed to that at a young age. Later on in life, when they're at an emotional maturity level where they can fully comprehend and understand that, then that's okay. But, an 8-year-old doesn't need to learn about what they're teaching in schools.
No.
And what's being inclusive in the curriculum, regardless if it's a Christian school, Catholic school, public school.
Is it really at Christian schools as well?
Steiner schools, yeah.
They're doing it all?
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. You need to obviously ask the school what their policy is around it, but you've also got to think like you don't know. You can ask the principal in the school, yeah, but how are you going to know what that teacher's views are on those things?
Just to be specific, I mean, he's talking about the teaching non-binary and teaching gender roles, and that's specifically what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about, teach, basically saying to children, if you want to be a boy, you can be, if you're a girl and you want to be a boy.
It's so confusing and damaging.
And like I said, that's okay later on in life if, you can see your child is whatever's occurring, okay? It's different. But you don't do it in primary school age.
No. That's so confusing. Oh my God.
It's so confusing. And
especially for us, we were both tomboys.
Yeah.
If that was around...
When I said to my mum, I cut my hair short, I wore gumboots, I cut my pants to this, and I had slick back hair, I wanted to be a boy.
So if that was around, you would have done it.
I had this conversation with my mum the other day. I said, I would have fucking killed you if you had been like, Amelia wants to be a boy. And then what, I wouldn't have kids now? Like, imagine. Just sit with that for a second.
Whew. It's heavy stuff, huh?
It's so heavy. And I'm not I'm not saying I'm against transgender or anything like that at all.
Everyone can do what they want to do, but it's the kids stuff.
It's the kids. It's not being against something. It's the kids. They don't need to be exposed to that.
Definitely not.
My daughter or my son don't need to, come home and be like, oh, Mum, there's a little boy at my school, but now he's a girl, so now we have to call him a different name. No, man. That little boy's confused. You know, if that little boy, 18-year-old, still wants to be a girl, then 100% bless and love and do it, yeah? Not as an 8-year-old, not as a 6-year-old. They don't know. I didn't know.
I still didn't know who I was when I was 18, though.
Bro, I didn't even know who I was at 21. Like, let's be honest.
I'm just learning now, and I'm 35.
And you just have to look at the statistics. Like, there's a lot of people that do transgender when they're really young, and they regret it later on.
It's already happening, isn't it?
You know, and they don't have that capacity to be able to, make those decisions. And I feel like, as parents, it's our responsibility, yes, to love and support and nurture our children in whatever decisions and whatever's coming up in their life, but it's also, you've got a freaking responsibility to them as well.
You have to, our job is to protect them. We are the gatekeepers of our kids' lives, and this goes from education to pharmaceuticals, to all that sort of stuff. We are the gatekeepers, and what goes through us. And this is where, I had to really, stepping in my feminine, it actually taught me as well. I am the gatekeeper. Like, I am that protective.
To your home.
This is my home. This is my family.
And
I am that, like, the trident, like, standing there. And I see, this is where I lost that people-pleasing, because I don't care anymore, because what I want to do with my family and what sits in my heart is my desire, is my compass. I say that all the time. It doesn't matter. I know what God or source or universe or whatever it is out there, I know that it's speaking to me, and I know that I have to listen to that because I feel it in my soul, and I will do anything to protect him. So I will, like I said, with the eczema, it took me 99 goes, and then I started, questioning. I'm like, maybe I'll do the steroids. And then I tried a few more, and then that 100 thing actually worked. Yeah. So I was like, I didn't want to do it, but
it's consistency.
It's consistency. It's just
like with everything in life, consistency is key.
You have to keep trying, don't give up. But look, obviously, like I said, when it comes to issues, sometimes you do have to go to Western medicine, like you did with the Mari and the
with Manaya.
Manaya, sorry, and the what did you give him? Antibiotics.
Yeah, when we had an infection. Yeah.
So you have to sometimes, but you just have to listen to that instinct, and that instinct started during pregnancy for me. I started stripping the layers, and I was like, the voice got louder and louder. Much more clear in my heart, but I had to go through that depression phase of clearing the way, so I could see that there's a voice that I need to listen to, and it's a beautiful thing. So you're amazing. You're so amazing.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy that I have you as a support. I'm just like, anything happens, this has got a cough, what do I do? What do I give?
It's scary when your kids are sick. Like I said, when Amari first had his first fever, I remember I messaged one of my friends. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, do we do anything for a fever? I said, I don't even remember anymore. I said, it's been so many years. Like, I had to, rejig my own brain,
So much has happened in between the
and
two
then I was
fevers.
Like, hold on, Amelia, stop. I'm like, the breast milk's fine. The breast milk brings down the fever. They'll be fine. Everything's good. But sometimes, even for me, you've got to retrain your brain.
Looking at the positives and negatives to everything, and then making your own decision of what works with you.
Yeah, making an informed choice. And that's what everything's 100%. About in life. It's having, option 1 and option 2, or A and B, and then you doing your own research, independent research, and then coming to an informed decision because you've had the informed consent,
of course,
and you've had the information there in front of you. That's a big thing, I think, for parents as well, is not just blindly trusting one thing.
No, just because someone else did it or someone said to do it. Like, do your own research and check it all. Fact check things 100 times. So much, Ask people around you, speak to your tribe. And this is the best thing, when you hone into your power of what feels really authentic to you, you start meeting so many amazing people. And I look back, I met you through a girlfriend, but before that, I knew of you for years. We had, when Andrew was going out with your sister, they were high school sweethearts. So, I was 18 and I knew who you were, and then as I met Mark, and then
we connected again.
We connected again.
Friendship group.
So So, but when I met you first, it was from another lifetime when we didn't have this mindset. And then I meet you again. It's like, oh, hello. It's like reintroducing as a new person.
It is, because you grow as people, and like, you know, those past versions of ourselves, you know, they're no longer us. So anybody who knew us, you know, in that era or in that time in our lives,
I'm not the same person.
We're not the same people.
Even when I look back at photos of when I was, before Atlas was born, even at my wedding, I don't even recognize her.
Yeah.
I look at her and I'm like, she doesn't, like, I look in the mirror now and I don't see the same person.
No, same.
Not at all.
No.
It's amazing.
It is. It definitely happens. And I like literally said this the other day to one of my business partners. I was like, you know, the version of myself when I first started my business journey online is completely different to the version of myself now that I show up as.
Isn't that beautiful? Because you do the work and you start watching the way you are as a human, and you start correcting them, because until you put yourself on that platform of really trying to go down a course and really going into an unknown scary space that you know is going to help you, you start critiquing yourself better. It's even like with these episodes, I've watched like the other 2,000 times, and I'll know next time not to do this or not to do that.
It's all learning. Life is a learning experience.
And that's the beauty of putting yourself in really uncomfortable positions, because they get exposed.
And that's where the growth happens. You are not going to grow as a person, as a mother, as a wife, as a being, unless you sit with uncomfortable things and you do the uncomfortable things. Like, you don't grow in comfort.
No way. I can even see it in myself in the last couple of weeks, how much it's changed.
Just from doing this, stepping out of your comfort zone.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not something that I'd like. I do enjoy talking, don't get me wrong,
yeah, of
but
course.
Putting it out there, and
it's a lot. You're vulnerable.
Mate, it's so much.
You open a part of yourself up to the world that you probably haven't deeply shown before.
No, but I know the beauty of it, and the networking, and that putting my voice 100%. Out there and talking about vulnerability, especially for women that think the same as me but don't feel like even these topics that we've spoken about,
or they have a community to even support, or a network to support in with.
Because not everyone agrees with our style of thinking, and that's completely fine. But it still exists, and for the people that want to dab into that area, it's around. You just have
and that's why community is so important.
Oh my goodness!
Around your children as well. Yeah,
100%.
It really is.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me, babe.
No,
honestly,
thank you for having me
I knew
on.
This conversation was going to be so fun.
I think we'll probably do a part 2, come to think of it now, because there's probably so many things that we still can talk about.
We can go down 100 rabbit holes.
Go deeper into.
Definitely.
So I guess we'll see how the feedback is from this, and if anybody wants us to talk about anything in more depth that we've
100%
brought up, I think that would be amazing.
Yes.
But thank you so much for having me on this. My first, invitation to a podcast. So I was very, very excited about that.
Thank you so much for joining me.
As soon as you mentioned to me you were doing a podcast, I was like, yeah, of course. Of course I'll do it. It wasn't, I've never done it before, and of course I was nervous, and I had feelings coming up this week I just want to not do it. Oh, I'm going to just message her and pretend that, it's too much. And then I was like, Amelia, get over yourself and just go and record the podcast. But it's all mental.
It is. But thank you so much for joining me, babe.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you. I can't wait to see it back.
I know, me too. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.
So wrap. I hope you enjoyed the episode and received a few good takeaways from it. If anyone popped into mind while you were listening that you feel may benefit from it, please share it across. Your support really helps promote my podcast. And to follow all the latest things that I'm up to at the moment, you can find me on Instagram at Steph Marie Holistic Healing. Thank you again, guys. Have the best day, and we'll see you on the next episode.